Welcome to Virtual Assistants, the Agency Growth Machine podcast. Take your digital marketing agency to the next level as we share secrets, strategies, and client success stories. Step back from the day-to-day of your agency and activate massive growth using virtual assistants. And now your host, Azar Siddiqui.
All right, guys, our awesome guest today is Mr. Sean Dennin, the, co-owner, you can correct me if I'm wrong, at Acumen Legal Marketing, a digital marketing agency servicing the law firm niche. Is that correct, Sean? Maybe you
Correct.
can...
Yep. Yeah, my partners and I own Acumen together.
Awesome. So again, the whole purpose of having this podcast is to anyone who's maybe even starting out their digital marketing agency, who are not where Sean is right now. They can learn from what Sean's been doing and hopefully get a breakthrough out of this as well. But before we jump into the nitty-gritty, I just quickly want to get the background story of Sean Dennin and where you're coming from. And I know like building out businesses is not that easy, Sean, but maybe start out with your journey, in the early days, what things you were doing, what kind of jobs were you taking, and then how did you decide to become a business owner? I think you're running another business besides the digital marketing agency as well, right?
Yes. Yeah. So I have a larger business that we've had for 18 years now. So yeah, my journey is I've always worked in legal technology. So within the legal field. When I first started out, I worked for another company that was not mine. I used to travel around the country, and let's assume Apple wants to sue Samsung, right? Like a big litigation where there's going to be 100 lawyers living in a hotel for multiple months and things like that. That was my job. I would go on site and I would support those large scale war rooms. So I was, I think I set up war rooms in 41 states in the United States. Wow. I've supported thousands of attorneys over the years from that. So originally I'm with an IT background and did business finance. So it was like business finance and IT. Started into that. Got some great opportunities. It was a ground floor company. There was about 4 of us in a room, and was able to be an integral part in helping that scale to about a $14 million a year company. Wow. And the challenge with that though was that I learned quickly that that's great, and you can make big fat paychecks and things like that along the way, but not having ownership in something that you're building and you're scaling is a challenge. And I did have no ownership in that. So I'd say about 8 years ago, I had done a lot of work with the company with my partners where I'm at now, and they were just kind of starting out. They were scaling the business, a couple lawyers actually. And, they approached me and just said, listen, we saw that what you've done with other businesses, we'd like to bring you in. We'll make you a CEO day one. We'll make you an equal partner day one and things like that. Had to take a step back in compensation, right? Because when you're running a $14 million company, it comes with some nice paychecks. So I had to, but I just knew that for me personally, being more into the entrepreneurship side and being able to grow my own business and being able to have that was more important to me than the compensation at the time. And I think that's a thing for people to consider, right? Like, everyone always looks at it as a linear thing. So, it's like, well, if I were to, leave my day job right now and focus on my agency and things like that, I'm going to take a 30% reduction in pay. I can only afford to pay myself this, pay myself that. That's something that everybody has to go through in the early phases of the business. There's ways to do that. I mean, I like to tell people sometimes, there's ways to utilize your skill sets. And one of the things that I did is I love doing business coaching and things like that. So I found ways to supplement my income during that time. Fortunately, that's no longer an issue. We've been able to do a similar thing and scale Precise and do that. So Precise is a company that we offer data collection services, and we help people present the evidence in trial. So we go out, someone's getting sued, someone got in a car accident, something like that. We'll collect all the data, push it through, and then we have trial consultants that'll go around the country and actually sit in the courtroom. So it's kind of like the the psychology behind show and tell, as opposed to the lawyer just saying something. As they're saying something, we have the documents and things coming up on the screen behind them and doing that. So marketing has always been a passion of mine. So about 4 years ago, about 4 years ago, 5 years ago at this point, I came across a company that was doing direct mail services for law firms. And what they were doing, not in the sense of like their marketing or things like that, but more from let's take a DUI attorney, for example. Someone goes out on a Saturday night, gets a DUI, that hits the court dockets right away. It gets filed into the system. We found ways to scrub all that data, bring it into a mailing house. And basically a lot of people do this. So one of the only ways that you can do direct solicitation for people is through direct mail, right? Because you can't pick up the phone and call. There's a lot of laws when it comes to how a lawyer can approach business and go marketing. So this is one of the ways that is allowed. Had a nice margin to it. So I bought that company with knowing that my plan was going to be to expand that into a full service digital marketing agency once my earnout period was done with the previous owners. So we did that. And then about 2 years ago, we converted it to a full service marketing agency. So we still do the letter services, but we added in websites, Facebook funnels, pay-per-click, and really focused on local optimization. Because with our law firms, most of the people that we're working with are single office, maybe 2 offices, looking to dominate in a local market, not necessarily like a national campaign.
That's an exciting journey, man. And this first company where you quit your job and you came on board as a CEO, how long ago was this one?
That was about 8 years ago now.
Wow.
So that was about 8 years ago. I like I said, I'd been on the ground floor of that company, so I still have a good relationship with the owner. And I gave a 6-month transition period to them. It was a tough decision. It was a tough decision for sure, but I just knew that from my passion and what I wanted to do, and that next level of growth and everything like that wasn't going to come from within that. I could have helped, we could have kept growing that company, and I left it. People thought I was crazy when I did it, right? Like my father, I'll never forget like the conversation I had to have with my father, who was, a very disciplined, 47 years in the same company, maintenance man, and he's just looking at me like, how could you possibly be walking away from this? This is amazing. You make more money than I ever made in my career, right? I explained to him that, money is not always my personal thing is I don't seek money. I seek freedom. That's always something that I've looked for. And, running a $14 million company as an employee, you don't have very much freedom. 70 hours a week, missing my kid's first birthday party, things like that. That just really showed me fortunately at a young age. Some people don't learn this lesson until they're 55 and, later in life. But fortunately, I was fortunate to learn it at a young age and do what I did.
Great, man. That's an amazing story. And my brother actually, he's a co-founder with me on the RepStack side, and he was at vice president level at JP Morgan Chase. Okay. So this was and he recently resigned from that company, and he's full-time on board with us now. So I know that it's a huge decision, and I can definitely relate to the conversation you would have had with your father, because my father is very similar to that as well, because I think they want stability for their children and family, and they're like, what's going to happen and things like that. But at the end of the day, like, I think we get one opportunity, one life, and if we're really passionate about, which looks like you're really, like you build out your career inside the legal arena. You went from your first company, and then the second was related to it, and now this digital marketing agency is also related to it. So
it just made sense to stay in legal. Obviously, well known in the industry, contacts already, and things like that. So it's not the easiest niche to be in a marketing.
It is, man. Yeah, I agree with you.
Legal, and that's what I always joke. It's like I like to be challenged. Let's say we were just recently talking about the 75 hard challenge that I finished and everything. It's just who I am as a person. I like to constantly challenge myself. So I remember even coming into the 7-figure agency, which I'm a member mentor in now. One of the first things was like, are you sure you want to do legal? Like, you understand that legal is really challenging, but no, it's been great.
Oh, that's exciting, man. So coming on to your digital marketing agency, if you can just give us now it's been almost 4 years since you've been running this business.
Yep.
Maybe give us some idea about how many clients you have. If you want to maybe share your revenue, where you're at in that particular agency right now.
Yeah, we've between the two, both sides now, we've been able to scale it over $1 million when you factor in the letter revenue, the mailing side as well. I'd
Nice.
say in about 2 years' time, we've been able to scale from zero. And when I mean zero, when I signed up for the seven-figure agency, I didn't really know what packages we were going to offer, what we were doing. Like I was starting from
Mm,
square one. We had no clients, no testimonials, no anything across the board. So that was a little bit difficult, in the very beginning to get the first couple of clients and figure out what we wanted to
yeah.
specialize in and services and things like that. But no, we've been fortunate to have a really good retention rate. I also, was basically essentially starting and scaling the agency during COVID, right? So
Oh,
that,
yeah.
that, that complicated things a little bit as well. But no, I'm happy. We've I'd say we're right around $50,000 a month in recurring revenue just on the digital side for that business. So
Awesome, man. And then you just mentioned the seven-figure agency. Obviously that's where you and I met as well. How important is it to sign up for a coaching program to help you grow it? Looks like it helped you out. I know I can speak to it. I took our agency from zero to almost 1.5 million right now in 14 months. So maybe speak to that if it's important or not.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. So it's for me it was the blueprint. So the blueprint and the connections. When you come into a group, into a mastermind or something like that, you have the ability to learn a lot. So when I came into it, number one, the first thing I would say is, regardless of your success, I mean, if we're talking like annual revenue and size and things like that, I mean, my other company is probably triple or quadruple where we are on the digital marketing side, and where even the standard owner is in the seven-figure agency, right? So the first thing that I committed to myself when I came in was just to be really humble. This is a new space. I might be a business owner that scaled multi-million-dollar, agency or companies and things like that, but I hadn't done that in the digital marketing space, right? So first thing I came in was just, humbled myself and knew that I could just learn from everybody that I interact with, right? Every person that I talk to, from the coaches down to the mentors, down to the peers that are in the group, down to the people that are having the same struggles as you. So I'd say from that standpoint, and this isn't the first. I've had a couple other startups that I used to own a mixed martial arts school up in Philadelphia, just a couple other businesses that I've started up and sold and things like that. And, out of the gate, I was profitable year one in doing that. Right. So that's not something that happens. Typically your first couple of years in a business, you're going to struggle. You're going to barely hit that profit line. You're going to, and things like that. And it's just an accelerator for me. So having that blueprint, being able to look at what other people have done, tweak it and implement it for myself. I look at it as it's just by the day I signed up, I probably shaved 12 to 18 months off of the learning curve of what I would have needed to do to get my agency to where it is right now. So
yeah, I totally agree with that. Having a coach and a blueprint available to just start executing from day one, it's a game changer. And I ran my agency, still running it for the last 13 years, and I can't believe I waited till 2020 to sign up for the seven-figure agency program. And it's been obviously a life changer for me and so many other people who are now involved with us. So yeah, amazing insights there, Sean. So just changing gear a little bit, I kind of want to find out on the day-to-day operations and how you're attracting clients. I know the legal arena is not that easy. How are you pulling in using your marketing department, and then how you're closing deals using your sales, and then how you're servicing them with your account managers and things like that?
Yeah, so we'll start with the service side. We've found that having a mix of using some really top level outsourced resources that are in the group that really specialize within certain things, right? Like you can build a team and you can try to do something, but when someone's doing something on scale and they just have a system for it and things like that, I'll use your company as an example. I tried to hire multiple, everyone would say, come in, hire a virtual assistant, do this, do that, right? So I did the go on Fiverr and go in different places and try to find somebody and try to bring them in and do that. The challenge with that is I don't have the experience with that. I've never worked with a virtual assistant. I don't know the type of training that I should do. I don't know the type of time management things that I should do. I don't know any of that, right? I've always worked with, solely US-based employees and employees, quite frankly, that are in my own office. I've always had brick and mortar. I have large brick and mortar up in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh and Melbourne here. So that's the world that I came from, right? And I was used to that. So what I found in the very beginning was I was making a lot of mistakes, but going to somebody like you guys and just saying, hey, this is what I need. This is what I'm looking for. This is the role. This is this. And then having somebody who has experience in that, select that, find that. So similar. I mean, I can hire somebody to create GMB posts and do things, or I can work with a company that does it for 1,000 customers across the entire United States and has a better system for it, right? So that's one of my recommendations would be to really decide what it is that you're really, really good at, do a lot of that, and then try to have everybody else do everything else, right? So for me, I'm really good at sales. Always have been. It's something that there's some people in the group that I've learned from as well that are just some rock stars when it comes to sales. But if I had to pinpoint one thing that I can do really well is sell for sure. So that's been my goal with the agency is to really have me focus on the sales aspect, use VAs to generate leads, generate some interest and things like that. But honestly, once it comes to the sales side, that goes directly to me. I still handle that piece within our agency. This year, I'm hiring a salesperson for the start of 2022. But I really wanted to. I'm a big believer in that it's really difficult to bring in a salesperson, hire them, tell them what they're supposed to do when I've never personally done it myself. I always find that if I've been in there, my coaching can be more effective, my guidance can be more effective, everything if I've experienced and lived it. So part of my 2 years in Acumen is making sure that I've worn every hat. I've done the account management side, I've done the liaison with the vendor side, the operations, things like that, to really get a sense of who the person is that I need in that role. And then I go out and target and find somebody for that role. So on the operations side, we have a good team in place with some account managers and everything happening across the board and happy customers. So I was able to pivot off of that, really just focus on the sales side. But our next area of growth, I mean, my time is still split, right? And that's where my challenge is I joke with Josh sometimes. I'm like, it's I'll be a salesman for Acumen one day, and then in my free time we'll run the $4 million company that we have on the side. So that's been a challenge. But again, I know the process now. I know what's worked. I've been able to have some success with it. So now I'm ready to target somebody.
And then on the sales side, your team is booking these like discovery calls or strategy sessions on your calendar, and then you go on and you take it from step 1 to step 2, or you just come in towards the end of the sales call and you just
as of right now, I've been doing it from the time the VA gets a hit. Honestly, we've been doing a lot of stuff on LinkedIn, a lot of direct messages and things like that. So that's the other side where one of the things that people teach is you really have to position yourself as authority, right? And I think the challenge is sometimes people come in and they'll run one webinar and make 4 posts and create one little video, and they're like, this authority play doesn't work, right? And I made a mistake right out of the gate, and it's like it's not that. It's all about the consistency. So for me, one of the biggest differences once I brought my VA in was just knowing that if I get busy and something requires my attention in my larger company or something, and it's happened, right? I mean, with COVID, it was crazy. I mean, when all the courtrooms closed, I literally lost on paper $2 million a year as soon as all the courtrooms closed when COVID hit. So lots of other things that we had to deal with on that side of the business. But what I love about that is that no matter what, like right now, as we're talking about this, one of my webinars is being cut up into about 6 different video clips.
Nice.
They're going to be placed on Reels and Instagram, and quite frankly, a lot of things that I don't even know about. I like to think I'm young, but when it comes to some of the Instagram stuff and everything like that, it's some of the stuff is just way over my head, and quite frankly, don't have time to learn it. So being able to be the content creator, push it down, and even LinkedIn. I mean, making sure that 25, every single day. What's cool for me is I honestly don't know the last time I logged into LinkedIn, but I do know that every day I get an email that says 25 people have connected with you, this, that, and then really, my VA will send, we like to do very conversational stuff. I coach people in the group to tell them, do not just try to sell somebody out of the gate, right? That's like the kiss of death in any type of, and just a tip for everybody. I know that's partially what we're trying to do is help other marketing agencies and things like that. Please do not, and I'm going to stress this, do not make a connection request and then throw a paragraph in there about what it is that you want to sell me and this, that, and the other thing. As the CEO of Precise, I get that about 50 times a day. And I know how ineffective it is, because it's like, I always say this, like if I did that to you on LinkedIn, right, you're going to look at it and you're like, oh, okay, here's just a salesperson. Imagine if we were face to face. And imagine if I walked up to you and I said, hi, I'm Sean Azar, how are you? And before you could even tell me your name, I'm like literally like, okay, so what I can do for you is a digital marketing blah, 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 blah. Like you'd be like, dude, this guy's insane, right? Like why like someone call somebody? I think, so I always tell people that. I'm like, listen, your social interactions, your outreach, all that kind of stuff, think about that person is directly in front of you. And would you use the same tactic if you walked up at a cocktail reception and you happen to meet that person? How would you do that? No, the answer is that I'd walk up and I'd say, hey, Azar, how are you? So what part of the country are you from? Oh, I'm from California. Oh yeah, that's nice. I love it. Actually, I've done, right. We're going to build rapport. We're going to have some conversations. Apply the same thing to your cold outreach. So my VA does a really great job of that. And honestly, we initiate the conversations, we get them started. And then once it takes a turn to a certain point, I get notification, hey, come in, open up your inbox. It's flagged, it's ready for me. I know exactly what I need to respond to. And then I pick up the conversation at that point.
Awesome. That's an awesome process, man. And I think Josh Nelson talks about this, that, the push versus pull strategy on when it comes down to your marketing and sales. And it looks like you're doing that with your webinars. How often are you doing your webinars right now?
I'd say we did them quarterly last year. I have a goal to ramp that up to at least 6 for this coming year. And I try to make mine really topical. So one of my webinars I did was specifically targeting bankruptcy attorneys, and bankruptcy filings have been down by over 50% across the nation. Reason being is that when everyone's when all the stays on mortgages and things like that happened, people weren't in danger of bankruptcy. They weren't in need of it and things like that. But because of everything that's happened in the country in the past 2 years, there is a wave that's going to be coming, right? Like banks need their money at some point.
Coming.
It's coming, right? So what we were doing is we were showing people how you can correlate and match up, search volume and more search volume related to informative search volume. So things like, what's the difference between chapter 13 and chapter 11 and chapter 7 bankruptcy, and what's this and what's that, right? And when you see the correlate, when you see that search volume start to increase and go up, you're going to see a direct relation to the intent searches, right? So that'll go from, what's the difference to this to the following month is bankruptcy attorney near me and things like that, right? So we were showing people that, if you really want to predict the wave, you want to be looking at Google search volume and data and actual data, not just like, well, we think in another 3 months it should start to hit. Like, great, right? But are you going to, hedge your bet on a I think or I feel versus, actually look at in your market? Because listen, different states have opened up in different ways. So what might work in Texas is not going to work in New York, and it's not going to work in, you know what I mean? So, it's really getting strategic with that. And I found the more, informative you can make it. I mean, anyone can run a webinar and just, say, hey, you should do Google ads and do Facebook ads and things like that. They've heard that story before, but really relate it to your niche. Niches are phenomenal. I think Josh is spot on with, in marketing space, the riches is within the niches and things like that, all those little slogans and stuff. But the challenge is I think sometimes people ignore the fact that they really should know something about their niche. I'm not an attorney. My business partner is an attorney. But if I get on the phone call with an attorney, I can speak to what their language is, right? I know enough about the industry to be able to say things to say, yeah, like, well, it's interesting that, Chapter 11 filings are way down. That probably is directly related to the fact that people don't have to use their pay their mortgages right now, and that they're not behind on their mortgages, and they're not at risk of foreclosing on a house because there's a stay on foreclosures, right? Right there, they're like, wow, this guy understands. I'm not a bankruptcy attorney. I don't understand. I just know enough about it to relate to them. Because listen, if you want to say that you specialize in something, I mean, I wouldn't just come in and just say I specialize in plumber marketing. I don't know anything about plumber marketing, right? So, really know your niche if you want to claim specialty in it.
Yeah, that niche thing alone is such a huge value bomb, Sean. Thanks for sharing that, because I'm a testament to that. Every single successful agency owner that I know, people like you, they specialize in a particular niche because they have some kind of relevance to that field, like you did from the start of your career inside the legal arena, and it just became so easy for you. But what it really allows you to do is that you just open up the entire market. Usually a digital marketing agency, if you're just doing a websites here and there and project work and some marketing, you're really stuck to your city, maybe Philadelphia, somewhere in California. But this allows you to open up to the entire US and Canadian market, systemize your process like what you've been doing inside your agency, and just turn it up and start selling across the states. And I love that. We've been able, this is the reason, because we're only focused on digital marketing agencies, only focused on 3 key roles. And that's all we're doing right now. So the more you drill down, I think the better it gets for your business. So amazing insights, Sean. I really appreciate it. I would like to end this with more of a philosophy question here. What's the why behind why did you start out with your businesses or the entrepreneurial journey? What are you trying to get out of it in terms of your life? I think you shed some light on it earlier on, but maybe if you can just talk about that a little bit with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm never afraid to share this story because I think that it can help other people. But I'm the classic person who fell into the trap of just focus on your business and let everything else go. 5 years ago, I was over 300 pounds. I had 40% body fat. I had horrible blood pressure. I was a walking heart attack. Didn't do any exercise. Right. I was so focused on, I need to run this company and run this business and do those type of things. And really that was, back as a result of the 70 hours a week I was working running the $14 million a year company. So, relationships with my children, I have 3 sons, just everything across the board was really, really suffering. And I realized that it was like, this isn't any way to live life. I don't care I don't care what class my Mercedes is. And I don't care what, if I'm not going to be here to enjoy this in another 10 years with my sons and watch them grow and watch them develop and see them play, what's the good of playing, youth lacrosse when I will never get to see them play at college level or something like that. Right. So all of that stuff became a huge eye opener for me. And like I said, I've always been a seeker of the freedom. I really love the fact that, if my son has an important game at 4:00, I'm going to be there, right? One way or the other, I'm going to be there. And that's been the biggest change. My oldest son's first birthday, the first kick in the teeth happened about 14 years ago when my oldest son was turning 1. And I got called by a client and it was a Sunday. I had to run into the office, promise my wife, I'll be home soon. I promise I'll be here and blah, 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 blah. And I just remember walking in the door after everyone had left the party. House was a mess. It looked like a blast and everything. And my son was sound asleep on the couch, holding on to a gift that I bought for him, but I didn't physically give him. Right. And that moment just kicked me. It kicked me really, really hard. Unfortunately, I didn't take the steps that I needed to at that time. I continued down a tough path, but I call it like the dark space of entrepreneurship. I think we've all been there in the sense of like, you're just working so hard and, you feel like you're not and everything. And my recommendation to everybody is just to recognize that early, and make sure that, we all talk about work-life balance and things like that. Make sure you're designing whatever you're doing to set you up for that. Because if from the beginning, if you're designing that every customer is going to have your cell phone number and they're going to call you and they're going to do this and they're going to do that, right? It's not going to work. Like, you're going to get to a point where you're going to achieve success and you're going to be making some decent money and you're going to be like, wow, cool. Like, I'd love to go skiing in Aspen next week, but you will never go skiing in Aspen next week. I promise you. So yeah, I mean, I would say, from a philosophy standpoint, decide what it is your why. My why became, there is nothing more important to me than being a father. My children are the most important thing in my life, being there for them, doing things with them and things like that. And I realized that the life that I was designing and that I was setting myself up for was going to be, I was going to be the dad that like checks in with the family, right? Where it's like, hey, give me a report on they made the lacrosse team. They did this. No, I've created a life where I will never miss their tryout for lacrosse. I know if they made the team because I was at the tryout when they tried out. So
that's awesome, man.
Yeah,
that's
philosophy standpoint, I would say that's my why.
Extremely heartwarming. I don't think I've heard this before. There's different reasons why people start businesses, but this is so important to have this locked in before you start out your journey, just so that, every time you're just getting off the track, you can just look back at the why you started out the journey and, kind of realign yourself. And kudos to you, man. I know you have 3 amazing boys and you're doing everything right. And it doesn't happen from day one, but really, really impressive journey, Sean. I really appreciate you doing this for me. And I'm sure a lot of people listening to this will get some amazing value out of this and hopefully help them in the right direction for their digital marketing agencies. Appreciate it, man.
No, it's my pleasure. And like I said, man, I'm a big believer in helping people who have helped me. You didn't ask me to do this, but I'm just going to put a shameless plug in here at the end for RepStack. You guys have been phenomenal. And like I said, just to know that right now during this call, I have a proposal that I'm going to go close right after this for $6,000 a month, FYI. And just to know that all that stuff's happening and content's going to be put up for the next week, and people are literally having conversations with me on LinkedIn that I'm not even aware of right now. And all that kind of stuff has just been amazing. So kudos to you guys. You guys rapidly scaled. I was having scaled several businesses in my career. I was, even a little bit concerned for your guys' scale, right? Like when you see somebody
it's been a whirlwind, dude.
That's a wild ride right there. But you guys did an excellent job of, I think you really focused on bringing in the resources that you needed. You've managed to scale well. So kudos to you guys. I wish you guys nothing but success, and I'll be calling you for another VA probably in another couple months here as we continue.
Appreciate it, Sean. Thanks a lot, man.
This has been The Virtual Assistant, the Agency Growth Machine podcast by Azar Siddiqui, co-founder at RepStack. If you liked today's episode, you can find more and subscribe at repstack.co. Thank you for listening.